Hello, it's me, Avenel. I keep trying to make this one and it keeps getting a little bit overwhelming but I feel like I just need to get through it because if it's this bad, I want it over with and done. but I'm gonna need a bigger disco ball, I guess, because it's not working so far. So anyway, it's me, Avenel. You can call me Avalanche. Somebody gave me that nickname recently and I like it because like my thoughts are like that. It's like if you shake it around too much, it's anyway. So time for another avalanche. But so anxiety. Here's my piece. Anxiety, I don't believe, is actually a disorder. I'm not saying people shouldn't get treatment. I'm not saying that it's not a problem. I'm not saying that there's not a chemistry thing going on, but I think that anxiety is a natural response of our bodies when we are continually forced into places, activities, and things that are damaging to us, harmful, sometimes abusive. And we are not even allowing ourselves to recognize that it is abusive, it's harmful, that it isn't right, that it's not just. And instead, we are internalizing it and pushing it down. I think that's part of what creates anxiety. And the reason I say this, so for me, anxiety is a very complex issue because what I was diagnosed with anxiety when I was young without them understanding what was going on. I couldn't verbalize what was going on with me because it's way, way, way different than anxiety. It's far more complex, but it sometimes causes anxiety. So what I have, um, well, we don't know all the things that are going on there, but one of the ones that I do know is one of the symptoms of whatever that I deal with a lot is ADHD. So ADHD for me is very overwhelming. So when a neurotypical person walks in a room, they're able to filter out irrelevant data, um, things they don't need to know, they don't need to see. When a teacher's speaking, you can kind of filter out things going on in the room. You're able to just focus in on things and filter out irrelevant data. For people like me, we don't have that function working well. So we walk in a room and we don't really know. Everything seems important, and then for us too, the things that aren't particularly interesting are oftentimes the things we're supposed to be focusing on, but everything else seems equally important and most of it's way more interesting. So it's just a challenge, right? So it takes a lot of your mental reserves. And it also is something that causes you to say and do things and have impulsivity, and that cause basically you end up with behaviors and things that you do that people don't like, and so people don't like you all the time, and oftentimes lots of people don't like you and you don't know why. And um, and then for me, I was also very, like, I was introverted as well, and so people didn't know what was going on with me. I just knew that when I would say stuff around people at all, like, usually I'd end up feeling stupid, because I either didn't know what was going on, or I said something that was kind of like inappropriate, or I said something that made somebody uncomfortable, like about myself, like I'm feeling this, and then they kind of just repackage it and say, no, it's not that, and then they tell you it's this. And so then I'm like, oh, okay, I can't be that way, apparently. I have to be this way. And then for me also, due to this stuff, there's a lot of things that are super, super unpleasant for me that other people think of as really fun. And it's just the way that I am. But it's something that when people are like, hey, let's go do this thing that's going to be great, right? For example, let's go to the beach. That sounds like hell to me. But so for me, I see all the things that I don't like about that. I see all the things I have to think about. Well, it's dirty. You're going to get sand here. I have to worry about that. And then I have issues where I get really chapped skin or I get itchy and I, blah, 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 blah. So there's all these things. Then is it going to be crowded? Are there going to be people there? Because I hate places with lots of people. So basically, there's a lot of things that aren't fun for me at all. they're really stressful. And especially now that things have gotten to a different extent for me, it's even more so. And because I keep a routine because that's how I function. And so if I break routine, it's very stressful for me because I need my focus and decisions and stuff for other stuff to be able to get through a day. Anyway, so there is some anxiety that comes out of that because places are harder for me to be. So I am nervous about going there. I don't want to go there. And so in those situations, I have to speak up for myself, which then is usually met with either people saying, "Oh, well, why not?" And then I say, "Oh, well, I just don't like, and then they will try to talk me out of it, which then usually makes it because I don't always know what's the appropriate kind of things to talk about either, where I end up giving people information that they shouldn't have. Like, I don't need to give you my medical history. I don't need to give you these things. Obviously, I'm like telling YouTube, so it doesn't matter that much to me, but it makes it awkward in the conversation because then they go, "Oh, but I don't know how else to get you to stop challenging what I said when I'm just telling you a fact about me. I'm not some timid little kid that needs to be talked into courage. Like, I actually am telling you this is how it is." Nowadays, I'm not as likely to explain myself, but especially earlier on, I was still very shy and timid about it. I'm not so anymore. But anyway, then you get used to being told, "Oh, you're so negative. Why do you always look at that? Oh, you're such a negative, blah, 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 blah." I just wish people would, and that kind of stuff where you start to, so you either have to go to a place you hate and is miserable and overstimulating and unpleasant, or you have to be told how unpleasant you are, basically. And you have to see people respond to you and kind of, oh, and again, be reminded that you're not a likable person. And, which is like a crappy choice. And so then there's also the factor of like going to a school where you have super unpleasant interactions with people, or the place itself, like in high school, I had where the school itself is totally overwhelming, crazy, and just an awful place to be, and not have a choice. You can't say, "This is not a healthy place for me to be. I'm being bullied. I'm being this. I'm being." You don't have that choice. You're told, "Oh, well, just tough it out. Oh, be stronger. Oh, blah, blah, blah." And then you have to keep going. So basically, especially nowadays, everybody should be having problems with anxiety because the high schools are out of control, but another topic. But workplaces, the same. A lot of times workplaces have this, system of how things are supposed to function this way, da, 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 and they don't usually do. They usually are like not doing what they're doing, and they're, like, again, Avenel, it's another topic. Basically, if you're dealing with certain issues, places like that can feel very abusive. One of the difficult things I have started to understand as I've gone through this process is a lot of the things that to me have been abusive to me were never intended, which is difficult because sometimes if somebody intends you harm, it's really easy to like be like, "I was wronged," and then be able to like confront and then forgive and then, make peace with. But when nobody even like intended to do wrong, but you're still like being abused, it's a little bit more challenging. And the system itself is super broken. And people have a tendency, especially people who are a little bit more, I guess, higher functioning is what they're calling it now. I don't know. People who don't have the same kind of struggles that I'm talking about tend to be able to go, "Oh, well, just, power through, push through, just, rise above it," kind of thing. And some of us don't have that choice. And it would be super neat if the people who had that capability to just push through instead were actually like, "Let's fix the system," and then everybody could get through. That would be cool. But that's not usually what happens. So anyways, I'll come back to another issue about anxiety because it has been another problem for me. Like I said, I was told, "Oh, you have anxiety," because there's an easy pill for that, when really that's not at all what I was dealing with. But because I was told that so young, that when I would go back to counseling, to doctors, to whatever, instead of actually knowing to explain my symptoms again, like this is what I deal with, this is what it's like, this is what's going on, instead I'd just say I have anxiety. If I had been explaining things along the way, somebody might have been able to figure out what was going on sooner, but I wasn't. I was just giving him the hot button word that I learned, anxiety, which was actually the wrong label, was not the right word. And it wasn't until recently that I had a psychiatrist that when I was describing what she actually asked me to describe my anxiety, and I was like, oh, it's been oh, okay. And then when I did, she said, that sounds like classic ADHD. And so, anyways, but that took like, I don't know what, 30 years, something. I don't know what the heck. Why is this curl so dark and like, I didn't do that on purpose. It's really bugging me. Anyways, so all that to say, having it on my medical record, saying anxiety on my medical record has been a big problem. And it's one that shouldn't have happened because long ago it shouldn't have been diagnosed that way. Somebody should have talked to me a little bit more. So, it should have just been different, or at least along the way, several other people should have talked to me and said, well, let's revisit this. What do you mean by this? None of the anxiety medications seem to help you. They actually seem to make things worse for you. Let's try and figure out why, let's talk about this again. That didn't happen. So anyway, I'll come back to that. I know I can just avalanche. But I guess what I'm trying to get to the point is that I think like anxiety and depression, all these things, I think that our bodies are trying to tell us something's wrong. And when you're being forced into kind of, I guess, when you have a life that you don't have choices and you're into these places that are harmful and hurtful and everything else, I'm not saying that we can fix that overnight or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I'm not trying to like start a voice for change. I'm not trying to do anything like that. All I'm saying is that sometimes just saying and recognizing and going, I'm not broken, the world is broken, has hugely healing effects for me, because I've spent most of my life trying to fix me, and I'm not the one that's broken. Yes, a lot of the things that I've learned along the way have been very beneficial and have gotten me, but it's also very frustrating when so many people are being just told, basically told to take medicine and just, deal with it and press it down and keep on doing what you're doing. And it's sometimes we do need to be able to say, no, I'm being wronged. No, this isn't okay. And even if we don't have a choice to stop what we're doing, to at least go into it armored, knowing, okay, how do I defend against these things that I now understand are attacks on me? Whether or not they're intended as attacks, they are attacking me. They're attacking my identity. They're attacking the things that are valuable about me sometimes. Because sometimes the things that make us difficult or make a place overstimulating or stressful, or sometimes it's a part of us that's actually one of the most precious parts of us. Like for me, the same things that cause me to be perceived as negative and pessimistic and I don't know, probably like stubborn, and I don't know what else, negative things. Those are also the things that make me extremely sensitive to the world around me and extremely curious and interested and able to make connections between things. And so everything has two sides. But if I'm so busy trying to deal with this negative side of it, I don't always recognize like it's not just a negative side. This side of me isn't welcome in the world. Oh well, I'm here, deal. But this side needs to be cultivated. This is the side I need to focus my attention on, but I have to protect it a little bit. And sometimes for me, that means I have to go into places ready to be the bad guy for myself, because I will advocate for myself like crazy. Let's just say that. I will knock down, drag out with somebody because I have not been advocated for most of my life, because That's just the way that the world is. Everybody tells you to change, and they don't even like yeah. Avenel, chill. Anyways, I need to wrap it up because I'm about to lay some smack down, and it ain't time for that. But yeah, I think it's just something that people should be able to know, and to be able to speak up for themselves, to know that the world is broken, you're not broken, and to be able to take that into account when we're talking to other people. Like when people start telling us something they can't do or whatever, respect it. For one, they don't need to explain themselves. They don't need to give you a long list of why they don't want to do that thing or they can't do that thing. If it's in a workplace environment, you know, that's probably a little different. For me, it's more like if you have an issue like anxiety or any of those kind of things that are, a problem in the workplace, step one is know all the freaking rules, like as much as humanly possible, know the rules, because sometimes, a lot of the time, the way that we're doing operations in a workplace isn't according to the rules, unless certain people are watching or whatever. And so if you really know the rules and know the rules, like, then you have a little bit more grounding to advocate for yourself. But you also have to make peace with being the bad guy, because unfortunately there's not a lot of people willing to step into that role for you. And in my experience, even if you are just, even if it's not even advocating for yourself, if it's just trying to keep order, if it's trying to advocate for other people, a lot of times you're going to be viewed as the bad guy. And so sometimes it's important to make peace with that ahead of time too. And I'm not saying that everybody should just change all their world and not take medications and everything. I take medication for ADHD. I would be even more of an avalanche if I didn't. I'm just saying, like, I think that there's a lot of things about mindset and mindfulness and understanding that are really important to finding healing in these things. And I do think that there is something that we need to start calling abusive systems abusive. And because the people in it are usually not necessarily abusive, but the system is designed in such a way that it can't be functional. And so but we can't stop it, but nobody knows how to make it work, so everybody's working around it. And then, and so it's just like, at some point it's gonna blow up, y'all. And I mean, I'm just thinking workplaces, but if we want to start talking like high school and stuff too, like, something's gotta give pretty soon. That's all I'm gonna say. And I'm gonna shut my face because I'm starting to, get lost again.